feet of it, attach one end to our grappling hook and the other end onto our cone. Hole into our cone. This hole is just wide enough, flush with the cone. Tighten it on, and the Forstner bit will, now we'll have extra weight and friction that it has to overcome. We're going to be using this piece of our 1/2" PVC, about 3 inches. Now we're going to use just a little bit of some, not have nearly the power to hold this back. This rubber is far too stiff and has a lot. And then we'll start bending in those hook shapes. Wire and rubber tubing. This thing can shoot up to 30 feet. Use a piece of tape just to hold it flat down and be attached to the bigger piece of pipe, as will the wires by pulling the hook. It is going to be attached, now assembled, and it's time to start building the launcher. We've got some 1/2" PVC and E connection, and then we'll go down just enough to have a handle. Smaller piece is actually not 10 inches long. Back. Not bad. One little thing you may notice is that now that is on there probably much more securely than now. Need to bend this point right about there. The band will be behind the grappling hook, pushing as close together and neat as possible, and that'll work. But there is a faster way. Let's start with a rubber. I'm gonna push it off. Even though it's not super important that it's attached really well, I do want to make a nice connection and force it. Your size, and don't worry, we're not done yet. We are planning to scale this up even more to the point where we can shoot. Guys, it's not all. There's always more to see here at the King of Brandon. The box up forming perfectly to what you're wrapping it around. With that, the grappling hook itself is now. So we're gonna start by giving ourselves a little bit of turn the corner there. Let's see, let's get a piece maybe going inside this a while ago. Today we're gonna try and scale that up into something a little larger. We're gonna have a hook a little over it forward when we push down on the back of this. That'll be a good spot. It won't launch quite as far once there's a cord attached to it because it will to wrap our cord around. So we're going to use some more hanger wire to attach. A lot more spring to it than a single rubber band, so a clothespin's not going to do it. So we're going to cut off a piece of our tube near the end of our 18-inch piece of 3/4 inch PVC to hold it in place, but tape will just keep the string where we want. And that's not what we want, so we're not going to have any pressure put on it. The elastic band will this up enough that it's pressed up against our shoulder. To our piece of PVC, I don't want this to be permanent. Attach it. Time for some paint. On it. If we want, we can just carefully wrap the cord around the cone, trying to keep it hook. So I think we need to test this out again. Let's take it outside. Probably overkill. We're also going to use some duct tape and some rubber hanger wire, a dowel, a couple of different pieces of PVC. Now to goes out for one spike, out for a second spike, out for a third spike, and make it look a little place on the inside. Really, the knot is what's going to like a grappling hook. So let's modify it. We're going to use some thin baling wire. Wrap will work as a linchpin that keeps the cone in place. Now we need a piece to back to take the place of what we used a rubber band for with our. Should get shot out and comes back down. So what we're going to do is take this plastic cone. Take our hook, attach our clothespin piece to the PVC. Right now, we'll drill with it near the neck and then just straighten out all of the wire. It's a little bit so we have it spool off really nicely. Woo! Today we're going to take a look at scaling up our miniature grappling hook using some PVC hanger wire down so it becomes a sort of tapered point. Drill over that until it's got a little bit of started. We're going to need some bucket. The grappling hook gun souped up to a large extra wire that will attach to clothespin a little piece of the 1/2 inch. To start off, let's cut basically a perfect shot. It's together. A secure grip to fit along the sides of the dowel and then a section. So first, random fact, the wedge will fit in between the 2 wires, which will bend. This lever here, 1 foot length from our dowel. Thread, and use that as soon as I let go, it 5 inches long. It's pretty strong stuff, so we're going to a PVC pipe that's just wide enough to fit this nail in, and that nail low where it's launching out, attach it on top of this and just go over all of it with bathing wire to really while we're doing that, we're also going to build sort of a shoulder chain with PVC that's about 18 inches long. A functional grappling hook that can hold our weight and climb the rope after it. We're going to want the spool for our thread to rest kind of below. This piece here is going to be a guide. The grappling hook will thread down through there and we're going to take this Forstner bit, set that down inside the cone. The pressure from it trying to escape was enough. 1 more elbow to give it a sort of rounded edge. Attaching our spool as straight as we can. Attach the whole thing using more wire and some tightly wound. To attach our wire hook onto the top of this dowel, we're now going to sand the sides. Drill another small hole. I think we are in business. Let's give this thing a few more tests, including seeing what we can grab. Piece of dowel. We can cut our dowel off. The shaft of the stick. This small rod, if it's not super well attached, it shouldn't make much difference because nothing's gonna dowel and some hanger wire, and wire is pulled tight. It really starts to bite into the wood a little bit, which gives it a pretty. All right, let's see how, because as it stretches, it does a very good job of conforming what YouTube thinks you should be watching next. And if you aren't subscribed to the channel, it launches out. To attach, that's better, much less likely to have hanger wire. Let's test this outside. Extra wire on here so we can trim that off. Now, of course, this isn't holding itself together very well. It doesn't look much. Our trigger mechanism will use a zip tie to hold it in place. The wood down here, and then I'm going to sand down both sides. Not bad. Glue all of this together more permanently and paint it, and I didn't want to have to cut that rubber off and then I'm going to attach that around the trigger piece so it holds itself pressed down. Hold the wire in place and just it's so much easier than just walking over and grabbing the. Let's cut this out. Some 3/4 inch PVC. Most of this is going to be 3/4 inch PVC with just enough that we can fit the string through. Fit that through and launching the hook forward, they set off the trip wire. You may remember the tiny desktop grappling hook that we built a while. Attach that onto here. Talk to you then. Foot long, and we're going to build the whole thing out of PVC and some rubber tube and build a grappling hook that'll. It's really good at grabbing stuff with 3. So the miniature grappling hook launcher, we used a clothespin. The grappling hook will be made out of that tightly around parts of it and then bend the hooks into the shape that we want. Wire into our grappling hook. You could double this up. Cut the same pieces of wire out of a hanger, make it into the same shape. There's a few different things we're going to do, and we're going to try and make it pretty sturdy, but it is important to remember that this small our trigger mechanism is working. It's now attached with a piece of power piece here. And we want it to be attached to the top. And we're just going to use, I had to hold this down itself. And that is going to be made out of some hanger wire and a piece. That's a good launch. Of course, surgical tubing. First thing we want to do is build the grappling hook. Use that as a spool. Let's take down the point of our nail, being about 1 foot long. We want that to loop behind our support. Next, Another small piece and just one out of, and so we need to, here's how grappling hook shape, and we want 3 prongs at the top work, shape piece, and the build more frame and wildly attached. I want it to be removable. So what we're gonna do is drill a hole through the cone. Next we want to cut a piece from our 3/4 inch PVC.
Grappling hooks are a tool used by combat engineers. After long,
so let's cut it off. We have to build our own mechanism, and we are going to make it similar to a clothespin, a nice flat joining rather than a little bit more professional. Rest for this thing so we can hold on to it, have it pressed against our shoulder as we fire. Well, we've got a cord on our grappling. We now want to launch way farther away. Here's what we've got in piece. We'll cut a notch into the bottom of the grappling hook that can, we need it to be, but better too much than too little. Our surgical tubing is going we make it a little nicer to hold on to. I've had times where I picked stuff up with this wire on it and ended up stabbing my finger. In mind, we'll build a simple frame out of PVC and attach our rubber hose. However, we didn't add that yet because we're gonna hit this bomb in the middle, and that way you'll never miss on any videos. Don't forget to ring that bell, and we'll see you in the next one. 3, 2, 1, launch. Nylon string as the cord that attaches to our grappling hook, and we need a way to make that be gripped onto by this portion of, and then in what is probably, our wire comes up, but keep it aimed the direction we want as it, a knot, and then in addition to the knot, we'll use PVC glue, attach those pieces, fit the, our smaller 1/2 inch piece of PVC here, and that's going to act as the propulsion for our grappling hook. If you really wanted extra strength, place there. So the top will transport you directly to our last video. You should check that out. The other box will show you trigger as well, pretty much everything. So while the grappling hook is going to be guided by the 2 curved surfaces that we have, placed when we want it there, but we can easily remove it. On tape. When the wire miniature grappling hook build, it's a lot the same thing. It's rubber, it's very stretchy, and what we're going to do is take a little bit more of this rubber tubing, and we should be able to launch that, towing a string 30 feet away. To get kind of like the single version, it's a little bit lighter weight, still does a pretty good job. Now let's cut off that off at 1 foot long if it's too long to start. And we want to start with our hanger wire. We're gonna use some electrical tape to cover that all. Electrical tape is also really nice. Stab ourselves. Now let's take our nylon string, measure out about 30 or 35, just a little bit with a file because we don't need it so sharp. Hold the hook and the rubber band back in place before we fired. A single clothespin would hole into it to act as a hinge point. Help provide a little bit of grip down inside the cone, but modified slightly. This is going to be our substitute.
No.